Would you be more or less likely to vote for someone if they declared publicly that they were an atheist? I'm asking that question today really just to focus in on something that's emerged in a big international report, because an international freedom of thought report this week says Ireland is systematically discriminating against atheists. Michael Nugent is from the campaign group Atheist Ireland. He joins me from Dublin. Also on the line, Peter Linus from Evangelical Alliance. Welcome to both of you. Michael, give us a sense of what this report is saying very briefly about persecution, discrimination against atheists globally and here.
Well, globally it's saying that the world is becoming more secular. Atheism has risen between 2005 and 2012 by 3%, religions dropped by 9%. There's a backlash against that, where religions which have had institutional power and privilege in a lot of countries are trying to push back against the rise of atheism and secularism. And one positive side effect of that is that atheism is becoming part of the national discourse and people are beginning to discuss it. The strongest secular countries that do have freedom and equality for non-religious people are places like Belgium, Netherlands, Estonia, and the worst, where there are grave violations, are largely Islamic states in China. And then in the middle there are countries such as Ireland and the UK, which are rated as having systemic discrimination against atheists and non-religious people.
What kind of systemic discrimination here in the UK and Ireland?
Well, in the Republic of Ireland, there's systemic religious privilege. The Constitution starts with the words "in the name of the Holy Trinity." There are schools funded by the state but run in effect by the Catholic Church, who are allowed to discriminate on the grounds of religion. There's the after effects of the symphysiotomy scandal, which still has to be addressed here. And in the UK, you have, the Church of England granted privileged access to Parliament. You have 94% of state-funded schools in Northern Ireland designated with religious character, and the proportion that is increasing in Great Britain generally, typically allowed to discriminate against students in admission policies and also discriminate against teachers. And you have religious organisations having exemptions from Equality Acts in both jurisdictions.
Peter Linus, we often hear from Christian campaign groups that Christianity is struggling a bit in Britain and Ireland these days, being more and more marginalised from the public square. You hear Michael Nugent now making a case that in fact secularists and atheists are experiencing persecution and discrimination. Do you think he's right?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One is that Michael and I would probably agree on the global scale. We've always been concerned about religious liberty, and within that we've always included those with no religion. I mean, atheism is a belief statement, a belief there is no God. And so Michael highlighted, I think, some of the Islamic countries and China as places which Christians, other religions, and those of no faith, atheists, are all finding it difficult within those contexts. So there be and we have always supported a plural public square where there's a range of views, where everybody has the freedom to do that. So that's the first point. The second is, yes, there is a Christian heritage within Northern Ireland and Great Britain. So Michael describes that as privilege or discrimination. I think that's just accepting the reality of many of our laws, many of the framing documents, many of the schools, churches, hospitals, lots of organisations were set up by churches, and that is part of their constitution and part of the history, and many of them are still run. So 40% of charities in Northern Ireland, for example, have a clear Christian ethos to them, and we have to recognise that and allow those to function within a plural public square. So
Peter, when you come to elections, does it matter to you at all whether someone believes in God or is an atheist when you're casting your vote?
I like to understand their worldview, if you like, their framework, where they're coming from. So I want to be really clear. I'm not saying I would either vote just simply for somebody simply because I think they're a Christian, or not vote for them simply because they're an atheist. But I would want to know what frames they're thinking. So for me, if somebody's a Christian and I've understood them or where they're coming from, that my understanding of how they view relationships, how they view justice, freedom, a range of things. An atheist, and Dawkins has been very clear on this, the moral framework is much less clear. You can't, if somebody's a random collection of cells, if we've just evolved from a Big Bang in cells, it's very much less clear where right and wrong comes from. So I'd have a series of questions for somebody who didn't have a faith position. Where have their views come from? I know where somebody's coming, a Mormon, if you take the American elections, or somebody's an Islamic faith. I understand where they've got their values from, and politicians vote based a lot on their values. So I'd have a question for an atheist: where have your values come from? Why do you view certain things as right and wrong when you view us as simply a random collection of cells?
It sounds like you wouldn't vote for someone if they believed in evolution.
No, not that I wouldn't, but I'd say, so why would you say that human trafficking is wrong if you believe in evolution? If we're just a random collection of cells and have evolved from animals, why can't you trade in people the way you trade in animals? now I'm slightly exaggerating a point there, but that kind of question I'd want to say, well, do you think abortion is right or wrong? Those are the kind of issues I'd want to ask about.
Let me pick up on that with one of our local politicians, Johnny McCarthy, who's just been recently elected deputy leader of the NI21 party. He was elected to the council in the recent council elections. Hi, Johnny. Good afternoon to you. Good to talk to you again.
Hi there. How's it going?
And actually, you were elected as someone who had declared publicly that you were atheist.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Why did you feel the need to make that statement that you were an atheist?
I'm not going to say it's something that's incredibly important to me, but I think it would be wrong of me to let people assume that I was a person of faith per se. So I think it was important for just transparency, if nothing else.
And it didn't harm you because you were the only member of your party elected to a council.
Well, yeah. I don't know if it harmed me. I think any harm that people would perceive, I think just to pick on stuff that Peter said there's people seem to confuse this idea. They connect morality with religion as if morality is derived from religion, whereas I would be very quick to argue that morality precedes religion, and the idea that people would be immoral if there wasn't a God to tell them what to do says a lot more about them than it does about someone who believes that their morality is innate in humanity.
Peter Lennis, that's the answer to your question you asked. Where does he get his morality from?
Well, so I think Johnny is maybe slightly misrepresenting what I said. So for Christians and for those of various faiths, it is clear where their framework has come from. So because I believe everybody is a divine image bearer, made in the image of God, I believe everybody has value. So I'm really interested in how we treat those who are poor. There's some very specific things around debt, around how we allow people to rest, have a day off, etc. So there's a whole framework of ideas that come from my religion. So again, I push Johnny to say, so I have no idea what his views are on a range of issues, because I don't, from an atheist perspective, I'm not sure where he sits on an issue. It could be abortion, it could be the role of the family, the importance of the extended family and marriage, how we deal with those in debt, how we have a day of rest, any of those things, because his framework is one which we've just evolved from a random collection of cells. So I don't know where his moral framework still comes from.
This idea that Peter's very easy to confuse this idea that evolution is random, which if you look at the theory itself, it's anything but random. Natural selection is anything but random. But again, it comes from the idea that he derives his morality from his religious beliefs, and that is fine. Believing God, I would put back to him that I believe he's just a good person. I believe that his morality precedes his faith in God. I would very much doubt that he, God forbid, for want of a better phrase, Peter, that if you became an atheist overnight, I would very much doubt that you become an immoral person.
It's not often you hear an atheist say God forbid. Yes, I know, I noticed that too. I know what he meant. 08459 555 678. And between the lines of this, there is this conversation that we have had before about where morality comes from and whether you need to be religious to have a morality. And the suggestion that some people are making, I'm not suggesting that Peter's making this, but some people are suggesting that somehow, if you don't believe in God, that you're somehow less moral. That's between the lines, Michael Nugent, isn't it? Between all of these
it
points.
is. I would suggest it's the opposite, that morality is based on human attributes such as compassion and empathy and fairness and justice and reciprocity and cooperation, and that these are evolved traits because being good and kind and cooperative are as useful to survival and evolution as are our more competitive traits. And that what religion does is that it corrupts that by adding in instructions such as stoning a man to death for gathering sticks on the Sabbath, or stoning a woman to death for not being a virgin on her wedding night, that are unrelated to compassion and empathy, and they're just about do this because somebody says that the creator of the universe told them to. And so what you end up with is people who are essentially good people doing bad and harmful things because they think that they're doing good things.
Let's take a couple of calls on this. Damien, how are you, Damien?
Grand, William.
Would you be more or less likely to vote for someone if you discovered they were atheist?
Oh, I definitely would be more likely to vote for
More likely?
Yeah, I mean, if we had more atheists in Stormont, think of how much time and money that would save. You wouldn't have the prayer to start proceedings off during the day, save a wee bit of time there.
That doesn't cost too much money, surely.
Well, there wouldn't be money wasted appealing High Court decisions, which were decisions based on evidence, rational evidence, scientific reports, and the money's wasted in those and on other religiously inspired follies that go through Stormont, like the conscience clause at the minute.
All right, Damien, thank you. Martin, where are you on this?
I think, first of all, like the question you've asked was whether you would vote irrespective, or whether you'd vote for the person if they were an atheist. I think it would depend on their policy and whether they ascribe to policies that you believed in yourself. So I think it should be an irrelevant question. But the question I'd ask back is, with the current trend amongst atheism, especially with militant atheism, the exponents of militant atheism being the likes of Sam Harris, Polly Toynbee, the late Christopher Hitchens, etc. I think, that also would militant atheists vote for someone who actually expressed a faith? And whether you could ask the same question and the converse.
I'll ask that question straight away. Michael Nugent, would you ever vote for someone who happened to be, for example, Christian?
Of course I would, and I have on a regular basis. I vote on the basis of people's policies, and whether they believe in God or not is irrelevant to a secular state where that should be irrelevant.
That's very clear. Paul Gosling, the Economist, has called us this lunchtime. How are you doing, Paul?
Hi, William.
Give us your response to this question. How do you think people are likely to vote in a place like Northern Ireland when it comes to something like atheism?
Well, I think it's very sad that Northern Ireland's not really part of modern society, in the sense that we have politicians at senior levels who seem to be more guided by what is often a corrupted view of morality and religion than actually recognising the political realities of modern society. I mean, we need to break down barriers, and I think some of those barriers are reinforced by, for example, us having ministers who believe in a very literal interpretation of the Bible and reject the concept of evolution. I find that very worrying. I would actually be less inclined to vote for a politician that has this religious fundamentalist view of society rather than someone who has more humanist values.
Thanks a lot, Paul. Why don't you pick up on that, Peter?
Yes.
If someone believed in evolution, Paul clearly regards that as an under-evolved kind of perspective on life.
Yes, and I think there's a man of straw argument there. I mean, lots of the politicians within the UK mainland have talked about their faith in various aspects. Nick Clegg saying he doesn't have a faith but sends his kids to Sunday school, which is an unusual one. David Cameron talking about his faith, very common throughout Europe, South America, North America, most of the Far East, to talk about faith in its various guises. My concern is about a secular public square which is to exclude faith. I have a real problem with that. That's wrong. Of course we should understand what people's position is. A plural public square, very different, says, look, everybody has different views. We should be able to talk about them, debate them reasonably as we're doing now. Secularism says no faith allowed, leave your faith at the door, and that misunderstands what it means to have faith. It's part of all of your life. So when I see a politician who says they've got a faith position, I understand a little bit more about them. And to be very clear, I'm not saying atheists don't have morals. My question is, where does their moral framework come from? And I don't understand what that is, and it varies from person to person. So that raises more questions for me.
Final word to you, Michael Nugent.
Well, there's some very interesting surveys in America over the decades asking the question, would you vote for an otherwise well-qualified candidate nominated by your own party for president if they happen to be, and then there's a list of things, atheist, Jew, black, female, etc. And atheists are currently just over 50% in that question. So over half of Americans wouldn't vote for an otherwise well-qualified person who happened to be atheist. But if you look back over the polls, that's where gay candidates were in the 1980s. It's where black candidates were in the 1960s. It's where women candidates were in the 1940s. All of those trends have gone upwards. People are now very willing to vote for gay, black and women candidates, and I think that the trend will move in that direction for atheists as well.
Thank you very much. And of course, if Ed Miliband becomes the next Prime Minister of Britain, he would be the first openly atheist Prime Minister so elected. Thanks for your calls and thanks for your comments to Michael Nugent from Atheist Ireland and Peter Linus from Evangelical Alliance.